So, Father, we've been talking about this experience of loneliness and kind of some misconceptions about priesthood, consecrated life. Celibacy is definitely probably something that many people have questions about. What's the deal with celibacy, and how do you live that?
Yeah, celibacy is you talk about fears of going into a celibate vocation, such as priesthood or consecrated life. And certainly that was a fear of mine. I didn't think that was normal, right? Again, I thought that you had to be somebody special or be given a special gift in order to be able to live that. And could you actually live it well? That's also a fear, and the answer to that is, actually, I didn't even know it, but celibacy is a gift. Like it is a gift that's given. And so that we understand where celibacy comes from, like, just so that everybody knows, John Paul II was a great teacher of the human person. And one thing that he taught me and taught our entire church is that every single person is made for marriage, right? You're made for marriage. I'm made for marriage. And the only question about a sacred vocation then is if we're called to forego marriage, right? That's why you and I have a natural disposition to desire marriage when we were young. And then all of a sudden you say, how do I understand? No, it's not that I didn't feel called to marriage. It's that I felt called beyond marriage to do something supernatural for the Lord. Not to say that marriage lived out in a supernatural way is actually what makes marriage holy and beautiful. But as far as understanding, people say, like, what's the deal with celibacy? Like, why do we actually do it? Some people will say that it's really about being practical. I've talked to Protestant pastors who are like, dude, you're so lucky that you don't have two vocations, And they say that somewhat facetiously, but also in a very true way. They wish they had more time for ministry. And that's not to be a workaholic. It's just that they love so much and desire so much to give themselves to the Lord in ministry. And yes, there is something practical about it, but that's like the most lowest rung understanding of what celibacy is. It is practical, it has a practical meaning, and it's good. I couldn't do half the things that I do if I weren't celibate, if I had a family at the same time. But the second thing is that we're meant to, as you mentioned before, we're meant to be a sign of Jesus Christ living in the world. We're meant to be a sign of heaven. And Jesus very clearly says to the Sadducees in the Gospels that, like, there is no giving and taking in marriage in heaven. There will be no, because marriage is a symbol on earth of the way that we will be united to God in heaven. We'll be so united to Him that our marriage will be with the Lamb, as the book of Revelation says, right? The wedding feast of the Lamb. And so our earth is spent preparing for the marriage with God. And really, marriage is just a sign of what is to come. It's a sacramental sign of what is to come. And so when we think about what we represent, we're meant to represent the celibate Jesus who walked on this earth, who loved indifferently and prepared people for heaven. And so your habit is meant to be a sign of heaven, a sign that you belong to the bridegroom. My clerics are meant to be a sign that I don't live for this world. My black is that I'm dead for the world, right? And I live only for Jesus Christ. And so we're meant to be symbols. Our celibacy is meant to tell people, I don't live for this world. I live for something so much more. But I don't even think that's it, right? As a priest, in a special way, people ought to know that, like, as they see their priest, the priest is supposed to stand in as Jesus, the groom, the bridegroom of the church. And so there's something beautiful about, like, actually emulating Jesus, who was celibate, who lived only for the salvation of souls. But the very most important thing that we can understand about celibacy is that it's spiritually generative. There's fruit. Like, we have offered literally our bodies. We've offered our lives for the mission. We've offered ourselves, and we actually believe that what is unseen is the most important reason why we live celibacy. It is that spiritual generation that brings forth new children, new disciples for Jesus Christ, and we give them life. By the way that we live out our vocation, and in a special way, the priest is so privileged to do that through the sacraments, by nourishing the spiritual life of the faithful people and bringing them forth. So when you understand that gift of celibacy that brings people to new life and to everlasting life, and that they might be the ones that greet me when I get to heaven, it makes me all the more want to live out the celibacy in a radical way.